Hey everyone, in this video we're going to cover how to count Salesforce records inside of a Salesforce flow. So I have a screen flow open. This will work in any other flow type, but we're going to use a screen flow to output the count at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But the first step that we need to take is we need to get all of the records that we intend to count. So in this case, I'm going to count all of the accounts that exist in this Salesforce environment. So I'll drag this get records over to the canvas. I'll just call this get accounts. And I'm going to look for the account object. And in this scenario, because I'm just in a developer environment, there's no conditions. So I'm just going to say get all the account records. In your actual scenario, you'll want to filter this to make sure that you're only counting those records that your business use case dictates. Before I leave the get records, I need to make sure that I'm storing all of the records into this collection so that we can count all of the accounts in a couple seconds. So I'll press done, and then I will connect the screen flow to the get accounts record. And then the next step is I need to create a variable in order to hold the count of the records. So I'll click on the manager over here. I'll press new resource, and then I'm going to create a new resource that's a variable. And I'll just name this record count. And the data type will be a number. We don't need any decimal places, so I'll set that to 0. And then this is really important as well. Make sure you set the default value to 0. And that way our count always starts at 0. If you want your count to not start at 0 for some reason, you could change this to be a different value. So I'll press done, and then I'll go back and click on the elements again. And now I need to build a loop. So I'm going to bring the loop over to the canvas, and I'll just call it count every account. And I need to pick my collection variable. And in this case, that's just the accounts from the get records that we just built. So I'll press done, and I'll connect the get records to the loop. And then I'm going to drag an assignment element over. And this is where we do the actual counting. So I'm going to call this increase count by 1. And this is why our variable is really important. So on the variable selection, I'm just going to click variables. I'm going to select record count. I'll change the operator to add, and then I'll set the value to 1. And so that way, every time the flow hits this assignment, it will increase the record count by 1. And I'll press done. And then I just connect the loop to the assignment so that for each item in the collection, the loop will run through, the assignment will run, and it will add 1 to the count. I'll press done, then I'll just connect our assignment back to our loop, and that's basically it. So at this point, because I'm just building a sample flow, I'm going to build a screen to output the record count. In your actual use case, you might want to do something different. So you could potentially update a record. Let's say you're doing a roll-up summary. You could now take the record count and use an update records element to update something in Salesforce. You could also use a decision. So if the count's greater than like 15, you could take one action, or if it's less than 15, you could take another action. For the purposes of this video though, I just want to show that number on the screen. And so to do that, I will drag a screen element to the canvas. I'll just call it screen 1. And then I will scroll down here and select the display text element, drag that over. I'll name it display text 1. And then here, I'm going to click insert a resource, and I'm just going to insert the count. I'll say the number of accounts is : space. And so you can see in this display text component, we're outputting the record variable so that when the screen runs, the record count will show up here on the screen. So I'll press done. I'll connect the loop to the screen. I'm going to save the flow so I can debug it, and I'll just call it count records in flow. Press save, and then I'll press debug. This will open up in a new tab. And we don't have any input variables, so I'll just press run. And you can see right away that the flow runs and the count comes out to 13. On the right hand side, we have our debug details. The flow starts out by looking for every account in Salesforce, and it just runs through our loop. Each time it loops through, it goes to the assignment and increases the record count variable by 1. It repeats that for every item in the loop And then down at the very bottom of the debug, the loop ends, and then it shows our screen. And that's basically it. I know that 13 is the correct number because I actually have this report open of every record that's an account in Salesforce, and it's 13. So that's it. I hope this was helpful. Leave me a comment if you liked the video, and if you have a question, feel free to let me know.